Okay, hello, welcome. The prologue. We are here. We are gathered here today. Oh no! What? Shut your face. Yes, for this tome, which Gemma reminds me today was 2001. Is that right? It was published.
I believe so.
2001. Gosh, nearly 20 years ago. Anyway, hello. Oh, you sexy devil. Thank you, Barnaby. You're a sexy devil too. The prologue. Oh, hello.
Prologue?
Turn that sound down. Oh God, I'm in stereo. This is my worst nightmare.
Okay, there we go.
Right. Well done, Barnaby, on the I'm sorry, I'll read that again. Reunited the other day. That was delicious. Very nice tribute to Timbo.
Click to enlarge.
Ooh, Mrs. No. Thank you, Brett. Okay. Right. Hello, chums. Indeed.
Hello, chums. Well, off we go.
I'll probably sat on your lap on this one. Go on. Frankie would not be happy. Go on.
Right, Frankie Howerd. So,
no,
this was the choice. This was the people's choice, everybody.
Yes, thank you, people.
Titters out, everyone. Yeah,
Indeed.
let's get our titters out.
You go first.
So,
the ratings go through the roof. Go on.
Can we start with how we met? Because this is quite important.
Yes, Frankie Howerd introduced us in a roundabout sort of way. Yeah, do you want to tell that tale? Because I was on stage at the time.
Well, a nice prelude into this book is that when I first met Rob, he was actually on stage at the Museum of Comedy, and he was talking about a time that when you met Frankie Howerd.
I was with Geoffrey Holland.
And you were with Geoffrey Holland.
And Geoffrey had been in pantomime with Frank, and the show was called Comedy Friends and Comedy Heroes, and I'd met Jeff on a cruise. This was July last year, wasn't it? Last day of July last year.
Yeah.
And we were talking about, we had two shows. Jem came to the second house. I was asking Jeff about the time he worked with Frankie in a pantomime. And I had a story about Frankie. I've got several stories about Frankie. But it was more Jeff's show. So I said, basically, if you want to ask me about this Frankie Howerd story, I'll be in the bar after the show.
And I approached you and I said, can you tell me your Frankie Howerd story?
And I did.
And here we are,
with a
carrying it on.
I whipped her away to Spike Milligan's seat. If you know the Museum of Comedy, you'll know where I mean. It's just opposite the bar. It's my favourite place. If you want to meet me in the Museum of Comedy, I'll be on Spike's seat when it opens. There you go. Anyway,
okay.
Frankie.
So, Frankie, the complete Frankie Howerd. Now, we were talking about this book earlier, about how it came about, and you said this was part of a collection that you were asked to write.
Yeah, I was commissioned by my good friends Richard Reynolds and Marcus Hearn, Reynolds and Hearn, the book publishers, and Richard had commissioned my very first book, The Carrion Companion, so we're old mates, and they commissioned me for two books, the complete Sid James and the complete Frankie Howerd, which then, as now, they're probably my two favourite comedy people, so I signed on the dotted line straight away. Okay,
so I've got a question here from Mark. He says, were Frankie's oohs and ahs, aside to the camera, scripted or ad lib?
They were scripted. Every ooh and ah was painstakingly written and rehearsed. Oh gosh, yes. Now the funny thing, because Ray Galton, we talked about, obviously Ray Galton and Alan Simpson last week with Steptoe and Son. They wrote a lot for Frank, both on television and stage. And if they wrote them in, if they wrote the oohs and all, and Frank would say, no, I do that. That's I punctuate the jokes. I do that. If they left them out, Frank would say, where's the oohs and ahs? This is not a Frankie Howerd script, so you couldn't win. But most people wrote them in. Yeah, I see scripts, and literally, Rory McGrath was writing for him on radio, and Jimmy Melville. No, and that's actually scripted. Yeah.
So, but was that ever part of him before? And
he stuttered.
Yeah.
He stuttered.
Okay.
So it was he wanted to be an actor. He first wanted to be going to the church, and then the Second World War came along, and he joined up and served in the army. But he wanted to be an actor, but he failed about 2 or 3 RADA auditions because he always stuttered. So I think he added that pauses just to give him his brain enough time to catch up on itself, if that makes sense. Okay. And it became his unique. We were talking earlier about there's a handful of comedians and comedy actors and performers that are just unique, totally unique, and Frank is one of those. There's nobody like Frankie Howerd ever.
Okay, so another question that's come in from Andy. He says, did Frankie lend his voice to any cartoon characters? And somebody's put here, whoops, Baghdad, or then Churchill said to me.
What about him? Yeah, where's the cartoon first of all? I don't think so. I don't think so. No. He should have done. He would have been brilliant. But he was pretty busy all the time. He had a sort of Frank Sinatra style roller coaster up and down sort of career, but he was always working, either down there or up there. So I don't think so. I'm racking my brain now about an animated character. I would say no.
Okay, there we go.
There you go.
Right, as Frankie learned all his lines word for word, would you consider him an actor rather than a comedian?
Very good. It's a very good question. Who asked that question?
Neil White.
Neil, thank you, Neil. He wasn't the best. He wasn't the best actor in the world, Frank. He was the best actor at playing Frankie Howerd. I think that makes sense to me. Yeah, but none of them really ad libbed. I mean, Tommy Cooper didn't ad lib. He was always pretty strict to the script. Yeah, no, he's definitely he's a comedian, a stand-up comedian. I think he's probably the best front cloth comedian since Max Miller. Frank, I think he's just fabulous. Ken Dodd, Max Miller, and Frankie Howerd would be my three.
Neil's just said here he voiced the blunders.
Oh, he did. That's true. Yes, he did. Did he play a character or just narrate that? I think he just narrated that, didn't he? Yeah. It's in the book. I'll check it. I don't read my own stuff. I'm not an egotist. I've not read this for 20 years since we proofread it. So it will be in the TV section, won't it? You carry on. You talk amongst yourselves for a minute. I'll just look this up.
What was Frankie's magnus opus?
Gosh. Up Pompeii, I suppose, I would say. We just finished watching Up Pompeii. As part of this laughter lockdown, Jem wanted to see all the Up Pompeiis. So that included all the BBC shows, plus the BBC Further Up Pompeii and the ITV Further Up Pompeii, which that came from. So yeah, I think Frankie never looked better than when he was wearing a toga for me, and he loved that. Obviously inspired and came from when he did the West End run of A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, which Stephen Sondheim musical, and it's the Up Pompeii idea came from that. But yeah, Up Pompeii I think is his genius work. Yeah.
Okay. A question here from Fiona, your sister.
Hello, Fiona, my sister.
And she says, do you think Frankie should have been a regular member of the Carry On team? Was he asked to be? You see, I consider him to be.
Yeah, he did three. He did two films and one telly special. Yeah, I mean, there was always talk about him coming back. He did Carry On Doctor, which they shot in October 1967 for a 68 release, and Carry On Up the Jungle, which they shot in the autumn of 69 for a 1970 release, and he did the Carry On Christmas for 69, that was after he shot Jungle. So he did those three. And he wrote Peter Rogers, the producer and creator of the Carry Ons, a lovely letter after they wrapped on Up the Jungle, which would have been until end of 69, and saying, as it was 2 years since I last worked with you for Carry On Doctor, can I assume I'll be back in October 71, which would have been, if you know your Carry Ons, Carry On Matron. Which would have been great in Carry On Matron, but no, he never came back. There's a memo somewhere now. I think it's for the second Christmas show. So Carry On Again Christmas, the Long John Silver Treasure Island spoof. There's a memo from internally between Peter Rogers and Thames TV, expressly saying not to cast Frankie Howerd. But when I spoke to Peter Rogers, he always had nothing but kind words about Frank and loved him, and he was going to be in Carry On Columbus. He was going to play the King of Spain, and died 2 days before they started shooting it. So.
Oh gosh. Well, somebody's just asked a question that's just come in saying, what was your favourite Carry On performance he did of the three? It's hard, actually. I think that's hard.
I suppose Carry On Doctor, bigger. What is mine, no matter. What is matter, never mind. But he's also brilliant as Robert Browning in Carry On Christmas. He falls out of a sort of like a chimney, like a sort of Father Christmas situation, and he's adjusting his real wig in front of a live audience at Thames. And he's just brilliant. Hattie Jakes is sort of sat on a divan waiting for her cue, and Frank, I think, is ad-libbing this, or is certainly riffing off. He's enjoyed himself so much, and he just goes on for about what seems like 3 minutes of him just rambling on, and Hattie's just waiting for her line. But I think for comfort blanket Frankie Howerd, it will be Carry On Doctor for me.
Okay. Question here from Steve Mullin. He says, we love his movies, but what is your opinion of the Cool Mikado and Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band?
I love the Cool Mikado, Michael Winner film, one of Tommy Cooper's very rare screen appearances, big screen appearances, and Mike and Bernie Winters and Dennis Price. If you haven't seen it, it's like a 1960s sort of pop beat reworking of the Mikado, Gilbert and Sullivan Mikado, and it's nuts. And Frankie was at quite a low ebb there. His career was on the skids. He was almost about to retire. So it's an odd film, but I do like it a lot. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band is just crazy. That's Frankie's last feature film. Plays Mean Mr. Mustard, and it's all the Beatles songs, but it's the Bee Gees doing the Beatles songs. So yeah, they're both bizarre. Make a good double bill if you're suffering from insomnia. No, I'm joking. I like them, but they're probably his least good two films, I should say.
Okay. Question here from Lane.
Lane, darling, how are you?
He says, have to say, what a superb book, mate. Do you remember the great memorial service? Your lovely mum, dad and sister were there as well, and I vividly remember Madeline Smith sitting next to us.
She did. I've forgotten that. She did. Yes, I dug out the order of service today. So here we go. I can tell you. I do, basically. F-A-H, look at that. Francis Alex Howard. Wednesday, the 8th of July, 1992. And you nip in here. The people on the bill. Cilla Black, Barry Cryer, who phoned me this afternoon. He's very well, by the way. He says hello. Baz, you keep Baz away from a celebration of anybody. Jim Whitfield, Griffith Jones said a few words. Russ Conway on the piano. Well, I remember this being very moving. He played Comedy Tonight from A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. Three Little Fishes, Frankie's great children's song, and finishing with When You're Smiling. And then Bruce Forsyth finished. And I remember, do you remember this, Lane? Bruce Forsyth came on and we applauded Russ Conway, and he said yes, yes, and we were basically almost a standing ovation in this church for Frankie. It was absolutely beautiful, and yeah, very, very proud to be asked to go to that.
Oh. So was Frankie a quiet and serious man off stage?
Yes, he was quite studious, loved books, and was very insecure, really. Like a lot of the great comedians, he sort of hid behind the persona, his stage persona. But he was full of doubts and full of angst. But yeah, quiet, very nice, gentle man, really.
Okay. Question here about his relationships. Robert doesn't do kiss and tell.
I don't do relationships. No, go on. You mean Dennis and all that? Yeah, okay. Well, he was happy. He was happy with Dennis for years and years and years. But of course, don't forget, when Frank first started out, it was illegal to be homosexual. So you didn't talk about it. So it's funny. Look at again. I'm not read this for 20 years, but looking at the back, I'm very coy about it. About Dennis, I think I call him his best friend or something. But I think I was even then protecting it because it wasn't probably quite out about him and Dennis. But I mean, they were a beautiful couple and they lived together for many years. And yeah, but he was quite a predator in his time, was Frank. But we'll leave that there, shall we? Okay,
I think so.
Good.
Right, Barnaby's asked a question. He says, if you wanted all the Up Pompeiis, I hope you listened to the revival with David Benson last year.
Barnaby, subtle.
Plug.
Yeah, subtle. Yeah, I was in the audience for that. Yeah, Barnaby Eaton-Jones produced a brilliant reimagining, reworking of a stage version of Up Pompeii with our good friend David Benson playing Frank, and the late great Tim Brooke Taylor in the cast as well, and Barnaby being brilliantly moronic. And Maddie Smith from the film version of Up Pompeii was in it, and Jack Lane, another good friend, and Fraser Hines, and it was absolutely brilliant. So you can buy it now. Do you want to put the link in there, Barnaby? I don't mind, honestly. It's very good. Send me a free copy. Thank you.
Well, Barnaby's also carrying on with that theme. Okay,
yeah.
He says, do you know much about the American pilot for Up Pompeii? when we were writing the revival, one of the writers unearthed these amazing lavish photos of it.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
surprised
It was
it's
for
never
Disney.
been.
Well, there was some Disney connection with it. I've never seen it. I've seen those pictures, or I've seen some pictures of it. I think they were in Frankie's vault, so I got some stuff from Frankie, his estate. But yeah, there was all sorts of attempts to redo up Pompeii. Obviously, the ITV in 1990. Somebody mentioned Whoops Bad Dad a bit earlier, which was early 1973, sort of pseudo up Pompeii. Then Churchill Said to Me, which was pulled because of the Falklands War. That's the Second World War. Up Pompeii, obviously the three films, Pompeii, Chastity Belt, and Up the Front, about the Great War. But yeah, they were always trying to sort of reheat that souffle of the original 1970 run of Up Pompeii. But no, alas, I've never seen it. But if you do get a copy, DM me and we'll share the wealth.
Okay, another question's come in about Frankie's relationship with Kenny Connor.
Okay.
That there was a little bit of friction between them in Carry On Up the Jungle. Do you know anything about this?
No, says who? I've not heard. I honestly never heard that at all.
Prior to filming, prior.
Well, they were in the West End run of A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum together, with John Pertwee and Robertson Hare and Monsieur Eddie Gray, which I'd love to have seen that production. Get my TARDIS now and I'll fly back to 1963. No, I've never heard that at all. And I mean, I know Jackie Piper really well, who's on the set of Up the Jungle with Frank and Kenny Connor. So no, never heard that at all. I've only heard everybody got on with Kenneth Connor. He seemed to be the nicest person. So
there we go. Okay, Kevin's asked a question here. He said,
Yeah.
Did you ever visit the home of Frankie, Wavering Down in Somerset? I was lucky enough to undertake a book signing there in 2003, of course 11 years after he had passed, but did get to meet the late Dennis Hamer, who showed me around the house, the highlight being the viewing of the bedroom left as it was, with Frankie's wig still hanging on the dressing table.
The wigs, I was going to say the
drawer.
wigs, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, absolutely, I did go there, and I've also, Dennis gave me a few bits and bobs as well of Frank's. I've mentioned before, somebody asked my weirdest piece of memorabilia. I do have Frankie Howerd's grape cutters, which I always say it's not a euphemism, but yeah, that was from Dennis's collection of Frank's bits and bobs.
Not his wig.
Not his wig. I'd love it. I've got Danny Baker's wig up there, but that's another story. Anyway, it's
another book club.
It's another book club. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so Jonathan is here, and he says, did he ever work in America or Australia?
Yes, absolutely, he did. He went to America a few times. He did the film, the Sgt. Pepper film in America, and he was very excited because they shot that in Culver City on the MGM studio sound stages. He literally was about 3 feet away from where Clark Gable and Vivien Leigh embraced for Gone with the Wind. He was very excited about that. And he also went to Los Angeles when Jim Dale, his old pal from Carry On Doctor, was doing a show called The Comedians, brilliant Trevor Griffiths play, and Frank went to see that and did a little talk about comedy and the art of comedy to this audience who didn't really know who he was, but Jim said he was brilliant. He also went to Australia because British comedy has always been massive in Australia, particularly the 70s, so everybody sort of went to Australia to tour, the two Ronnies and Sid James and people, and Frankie did some live stuff over there, and also a show called Up the Convicts, about obviously people going to Australia as convicts. So,
now, somebody very special here has asked a question that I don't think that the audience is going to know the answer to, but
do I know the answer to?
You will know the
Okay, go on.
answer to this.
Yeah.
Could you tell them about the Basingstoke
Basingstoke Beasties.
Beasties?
I can. That's my sister, Bibs. Yes. Yeah. Now I'm not going to go into this because there's countless ex-girlfriends who saw Frankie Howerd with me. Fiona came. I think it was just me and her. I'm not sure. I'm not sure my mum and dad were there. I think it was just me and Fiona. Anyway, I was one of Frankie's pankies. He appealed. I was 19 at the time, so this is 1990, just before May 1990. And I saw Frank about, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 times or something in the course of maybe 3 months. Is Fiona saying anything? No, she's not.
No.
So we're front row centre. And I think I've seen Frank probably 3 or 4 times by this point. So he's beginning to recognise me. I'm wearing the Titty Not t-shirt. I've got my audio cassette of the reissue of Three Little Fishes, the redone version of Three Little Fishes, and a thing called, was it was it Primeval Scream or something on the B-side? Scream your fears away or something. It's 30 years ago. And I think Frank. So the whole of the 2-hour set, he's picking on me and Fiona, and he dubbed us the Basingstoke Beasties throughout the entire show. So that was
from Basingstoke,
and we are beasties, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay, right. Neil White asks, was Frankie upset at the shelving of Then Churchill Said to Me, "You must love it, Frankie and the..."
Nicholas Courtney, yeah, I know what you're going to say. The
Brigadier.
Brigadier, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I do love it. Yeah, it's a bit. It needs a bit of a tighten on it in the edit, maybe. But yeah, I do love it. Moricello wrote or co-wrote it. Yeah, he was really upset because I mean they finished shooting and editing the 6 episodes, and then the Falkland War kicked in. And very oddly, I mean, it's just another conflict. I remember when the first Gulf War hit. I remember the BBC pulling a screening of Carry On Up the Khyber for some reason because they thought it was bad taste. But this was a Second World War thing, and it's actually pretty good. Those Who Loot We Shoot was an episode. I remember that. But anyway, Frank's waiting.
So, John Mitchell asks, was Frankie's lack of confidence a major factor in the low points of his career?
Oh gosh, I don't think so, because he was always like that, even when he was really successful. I think fads just changed, fashions changed, comedy changed, and he was considered. I remember Ray Galton and Alan Simpson telling me when they were doing Comedy Playhouse. The second series, so Steptoe was running, and the second series they wrote one for Frank, and they said to, I think it was Tom Sloan, head of comedy, saying we'd love to write a series for Frankie Howerd, and his words were, "Oh, Frankie Howard's a yesterday's man. He's finished in this business." This was 1963. That same year, Ned Sherrin wrote a brilliant piece about the budget for him for That Was the Week That Was, which Frank did, like a lovely 5-minute monologue, which was hilarious. And then suddenly it was woof, up there again. And come 1965-66, Galton and Simpson wrote a BBC series for Frankie Howerd. He got the first Carry On. He got the lead, the star guest part in the Great St Trinity's train robbery. So he was up there again. And then by about mid-1970s, he was down there again. So it was a bag of nerves his entire life, but it never affected his comedy. It just changed him as a man, I think.
When he joined the Carry Ons, was there any animosity with the long-standing cast members, or did they welcome him with...
Kenneth Williams was upset. Kenneth was always upset. There was a weird... No, I don't think there was, because I mean he got top billing. But don't forget, around that time, a lot of the guest actors were getting top billing. Harry H. Corbett came in for one, Screaming, and got top billing. Phil Silvers did one, Follow That Camel, and got top billing. They originally offered Francis Bigger, it wasn't called that then, they offered it to Kenneth Williams. And Kenneth balked at the idea of having such a massive leading part in the Carry On and turned it down. Then he regretted it and said he wasn't going to be in it at all, and it was all argy-bargy going on anyway. There was a thing going around, some fan group said that there's no scenes that Kenneth Williams and Frankie Howerd would cancel each other out, but they do have a couple of scenes together. And also, if you have, there's a brilliant LP, album, Frankie Howerd at the BBC on one side and Frankie Howerd at the Establishment on the other side. That was Peter Cook's club in the West End in Soho. And Kenneth Williams is in the audience for this recording. And he's doing that brain laugh all the way through it. And there's a point where Frankie Howerd stops and says, "Thank God we're recording this. One comedian laughing at another." So there was a sort of mutual, love about them. But no. Again, I've never heard anything. I think Frankie was just respected as a great comedian that came in and to guest. It was a happy band, the Carry Ons. Don't believe all the nonsense you read. They all seem to get on really well.
Okay, so Paul Perkins just wants to go back to this Three Little Fishes. He says he thinks that it was Frankie's equivalent to the Sitcom Barbers shop sketch and Morecambe and Wise's ventriloquist sketch, as it was a favourite skit he did in his live show. Would that be correct?
He did like doing it, yes, with Madame Rogers on the piano, deaf old Madame Rogers. yeah, he loved doing it. And woof, diddle, and all that business. It was children's favourite as well. Uncle Mac and those people would spin it. And he did it live when I saw him as well. So he was still doing it in 1990, 1991. The act didn't change really. I mean, he did the same old stuff. He came in the sort of shabby old suit and did these brilliant one-liners and Shaggy Dog stories, and just bewitched me with his comic charm.
So Mark French is asking, does his
Mark.
scene in the Beatles exist, which I asked you about not that long ago?
In Help. Yeah, the Salt and Pepper film exists, but they're not in that. For those who don't know, Frank recorded a small scene, Shepperton Studios, when the Beatles were making Help, and there was a scene with Frank and the Beatles teaching them elocution, and Wendy Richards is in this scene too. There's a couple of photographs. There's one of John Lennon putting a funny face. I think they're in the book actually. One of John putting a funny face and Frank putting the same face back, and George looking just on. And there's one of Frank with Wendy Richard and Paul McCartney. But as far as I know, I've been trying to search for this for years, but I think it's gone the way of all flesh, alas. Just photographs and the script.
Okay, so Fiona's asking. I guess this is leading on from your audience.
Oh yeah, Blames the Beasties.
And
yeah.
she said there were just two of you with lots of explanation marks.
Yeah, it was just two. Yeah. That's what I thought. Yeah, so, it was 30 years ago, Fiona. You know.
She says,
Okay.
do you think that Frankie was surprised at his revival with the student population?
Totally. Oh my God! Yeah, of course. Yeah. He was. This was the end of the road. 1980s. He was doing stuff like TBAM, sort of roving reporter stuff. He was still working, doing all sorts of little guest spots and things. But yeah, I mean, it was amazing. I remember I talked to him about it. He just couldn't believe it. I mean, Jen knows the full story. I would spend quite a lot of time with Frank after one of the shows, but the one moment that sticks with me, which will never go. I was 19, I forget, right, and I was comedy obsessive. Frankie Howerd mad. I loved Frank. He did an Arena. There was a documentary on BBC Arena about him, which I was so excited about. And then the Further Up Pompeii in 1990. So around 1990, he was really hot again. And as I say, he called us his Frankie Panky's student. I was at university in London. And there was a moment when he said, look, how old are you? And I said, I'm 19. And he goes, well, why do you think I'm funny? And I said, because you're Frankie Howerd, which was the first thing that popped into my head. And looking back, I've analysed that moment a lot for the last 29 years, whatever it was. I thought that was a pretty good answer now, but he said, oh, that's not an answer. What do you mean that's not an answer? And I said, because you are Frankie Howerd, you know. And that's why he's funny, because he's Frankie Howerd. And nobody else is Frankie Howerd.
Right, so Paul Hankey has said, he said, I've got high nostalgia for the house in Nightmare Park, which I remember loving when I saw as a kid. Is it worth me digging out the DVD? You should have been on our watch party.
We did this as part of our hashtag comedy horror double bill about, what, 2 weekends ago?
Yeah.
Yes, it's on network DVD and it's lovely. It's actually a Blu-ray version now as well. I think I might have to upgrade. I might talk to my friends at Network. But yes, it's on network DVD. It's part of the British Film Collection, which basically, if you're not sure about a film title, if it's under the British Film Collection, buy it anyway, because they're going to be fascinating. That's a lovely collection. So yeah, absolutely, it stands up really well, and it's got Ray Milland in it, who was doing a lot of horror films at that time, Frogs and that sort of stuff. So it's brilliant. Frankie Howerd versus Ray Milland, and a great supporting cast: Kenneth Griffiths and Hugh Burton and Rosalind Crutchley. Yeah, anyway, it's lovely. So yes, that's a long answer. Yes, buy it.
Okay, so Paul Perkins asks, the 1963 comedy Playhouse episode that you referred to was Have You Read This Notice?
That's right, yeah.
I am cheating with Mark Lawson's Radio Times
Lewison.
Yeah. Comedy guide. Okay.
I've got it right in front of me there. But anyway, go on. Yeah, okay.
Yes, you have as well. They can't see this.
That is one of my most thumbed books. Mark Lewison's Radio Times Guide to TV Comedy is a thick old tome, and it's absolutely it's indispensable for any fan of television. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, that's it. That's right. Yeah, but there was no series from that. But Golden and Simpson did write a series just called Frankie Howerd, which was a sort of a situation comedy in 1966.
Okay, so Lane has asked, is he correct in thinking that he is Cilla Black's son's godfather? So
yes,
Cilla Black's
yes,
son
they were very
was
close.
Frankie,
Yes, that's
the
right. Yes,
godfather.
yes, yes. Cilla Black and Jim Whitfield were Frank's two closest friends in the business. Yeah.
Okay, so another question is, what was Frankie like with the fans after the show?
Well, I didn't see him. I had a one-to-one audience. I was very lucky to have that. He was good, I think. I mean, I've never heard anything. You tell me. Did anybody meet him after a show? I think there will be crowds of certainly of my age at that time, sort of late teens, early 20s, who were sort of obsessed about him. But no, I think he was A, completely gobsmacked by the renewed interest, and B, extremely grateful. So I'm sure he will be signing. I'm sure you can find hundreds of signed Frankie Howerd at his tittermost posters and flyers on eBay, I'm sure.
Okay, Chris Stratton asks, please mention the Op Je T'aime record he did with June Whitfield in 1971.
And Alan Simpson, yes,
Do
indeed.
you have a copy of that?
Of course I have a copy. But I think it was Pi Records, I think. I think it was Pi Records.
I wonder if Alexa's got a copy.
Well, she hasn't. I've got a copy. But it was Golden Simpson rewrote the famous Jane Birkin and Serge recording, very sexy recording, and it was Frank and Jim Whitfield, and basically Frank's more interested in golf than making love, and Alan Simpson, co-writer, is the uncredited bloke who cockholds Frank. So there you go. It's very funny.
Okay, so what did you think of David Walliams' portrayal of Frankie in the BBC4 drama Rather You Than Me?
I liked it. I liked David Walliams. I thought the performance was really good. I thought for what it was trying to do, it was a good biopic. Those things were always sort of half fact, half fiction. I thought it was lovely that Didis Lay played Frank's mum in it. That was a nice reconnection back to Carry On Doctor. So yeah, I mean, I liked it. I've not seen it for a long time, but I remember liking it at the time. So yeah, good.
Okay, Geraldine Bosworth says, as a little girl, my aunties took me to Golders Green Hippodrome to see Frankie. Who was the pianist he was with? Someone called Madame
Rogers, yeah. There was loads of Madames over the years, but it was a death old... Well, she wasn't deaf, really. It was part of the gag. But when we Golders Green, oh gosh, what year are we talking about? Because it's probably Madame Rogers, I should think. She was the longest standing one. But yeah, if that rings a bell, I hope that's her.
Okay.
Very, again, brilliant stooge. Didn't say a word. A bit like Hilda Baker's Cynthia. She just was just a brick wall for Frank to bounce insults off, and it was very funny.
Okay, Paul Perkins says, I read that Frankie recorded an Australian series called Up the Convicts by Hugh Stuckley.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about this, didn't we?
Yeah, that's all right, but what's the point? What's the point of this question?
After the ITV series A Touch of the Casanovas, did
Yes.
Frankie do any live shows in Australia and New Zealand?
Yeah,
and was he popular throughout the 60s and 70s in those places?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Hugh Stuckley also...
We've got 48 questions
Oh,
pending.
okay, good. Well, Hugh also wrote Tony Hancock's last series when he was over in Australia too, so that's another connection with British comedy greats. Go on.
Jen Govey said he's a great storyteller.
Oh, Jen, my gosh, hello, Jen.
But
Darling.
he
Go on.
definitely had a very unique Frankie way of storytelling, so it makes you sense that, since you said he's funny because he's Frankie.
Yeah. Eric Sykes used to write a lot. When Frank came out of the army, demobbed in 1946, he was doing some camp concerts, no pun intended, but his major break was on radio, in Variety Bandbox, which was a weekly sort of variety show. And Eric Sykes would write these very funny shaggy dog stories. There were no jokes as such. They were like sort of 5 or 6 minutes, sort of really, and they elongate these tales and all this. Oh no, and all that will start coming into it, and the longer and longer they get. So yeah, it's unique because those scripts, they're only funny really if you imagine Frankie's voice doing them. And there's some episodes, or certainly extracts on YouTube of if you search Frankie Howerd Variety Bandbox, you'll hear him very early on, 1948-49 time, and they're great. Yeah.
Okay, Susie Dawkins is here.
Hello,
Have a
Susie,
friend.
my darling. Yes, Sabrina on the internet. Go on.
Okay, she says, hello.
Hello.
Do you know anything about the BBC series entitled Frankie Looks Up, which was a comedic take on astronomy?
Oh yeah.
Apparently, Sir Patrick Moore mentioned it a few times. Sabrina was his co-presenter and Alma Coggan Kogan, sorry. Was also
She's very
booked.
young. It's okay. Forgive her. She knows what.
I can't
she knows
see
what she
the
says. Go
screen.
on. We saw Emma Kogan last night in
My
that Blackpool documentary.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
I pointed her out. Anyway, go on. Yeah.
I need
Brilliant
a bigger
singer.
screen.
The sister of Sandra Karen in Carry On Camping. Anyway.
Okay,
Go on.
I'm getting old. Look, I need a bigger screen.
I need my glasses.
So she was also booked to appear in each episode, but the BBC shelved it at the last minute.
She was going to be in every episode. I didn't know. That's interesting. I didn't know Sabrina was involved. I've heard about the show for sure. It might be worthwhile to. I'm sure you've already done this, Susie. You've gone to the BBC written archives just outside Reading, where all that stuff will be housed. I'm sure there's like contracts or cancelled contracts for Sabrina and all that sort of stuff. But that's I didn't know that they were so. Well, thank you for that. You see, you've taught me something new. Every day's a school day. I love this. But yes, and I must say, if you go, it's the fabulous Sabrina on Instagram. It's my favourite. I say this as many times as I can. It's my favourite page on Instagram, and that's Susie's tribute to Sabrina. It's brilliant. Love it.
Okay, did Frankie appear as a cameo in any sitcom?
No, don't think so. No.
All right. Did Frankie have a big gay following?
Big what? Gay following? Not necessarily. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Because people like Larry Grayson. We were watching Larry Grayson last night on that Blackpool thing, and if you didn't see it, it's on iPlayer, by the way. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. I talked about it today. But they were mainstream. It wasn't even discussed that Frankie Howerd was gay. I mean, I didn't even think he was gay when I watched those up Pompeii repeats. He's surrounded by these gorgeous women in bikinis, and
he plays it straight.
And he fancies women in a very camp way. But no, I don't. I mean, if you were gay and you obviously recognised he was gay, or it's like Kenneth Williams in Round the Horn and all the Polari chat and stuff. But yeah, it wasn't like he was niche at all. It wasn't. I mean, this is why I got a little bit miffed when we mentioned earlier David Benson, who played Frankie in the recent Up Pompeii play and audio recording. And there's this whole thing when he did his Kenneth Williams solo show, Think No Evil of Us, My Life with Kenneth Williams, which is brilliant if you ever get a chance to see it. It's a superb piece of theatre, and it won all sorts of awards, quite rightly so. But some of them were like the best piece of gay theatre. I thought, well, it's just the best piece of theatre. Why have you got to categorise it? So no, I mean, I think he was just loved across whatever you were, really, whatever your denomination or sexuality or gender.
So, who did Frankie like in comedy, and who did he like to meet?
To work with.
Yeah.
Well, his comedy hero, like a lot of those post-war comedians, was Sid Field. I talk a lot about Sid Field on my Forgotten Heroes stage show. So Tony Hancock and Dick Henry and Eric Morecambe and Tommy Cooper and Frankie Howerd all adored Sid Field. The person he loved to work with, a couple of people. Joan Sims, he was dubious because they would corpse a lot. They'd crack up laughing. So there's tales of when they were shooting Carrying Up the Jungle, where they literally had to be sort of like almost back to back because they were laughing so much at what the other was doing, like Windscreen Viper stuff and all that. I'm laughing on a minute. So Frankie and I. But the person, now this is a bit risque here, but the person that really almost turned him was he was doing a series called The Howerd Confessions for ITV, and there's a Second World War thing where Caroline Monroe is in it as like some French resistance person. What? She's still gorgeous now, but in 1970, whatever it was, apparently Frankie was getting quite excited. So there you go. So he liked working with her, but there we go.
Okay. All right then. So
this is the X-rated version now. We'll do that later on.
Up the Front was the final Up film.
Love that film.
Was there due to be another?
No, we're talking about doing another one, yeah. A bit like I always think it's a bit like Blackadder, but with carry-on gags, those films. Yes, they would have done, and I think it was curtailed because of The House in Nightmare Park, which turned out to be Frank's last sort of leading role in a feature film. But yeah, I would have loved to, they all did really, really good business. We must watch those because Maddie Smith's in all three of those films. No, she's not. She's not in number 2. She's in the first one and the third one. It's Anne Aston, isn't it, in the second one? But they're great. Brilliant cameos from Hugh Paddock and Lance Percival, and Bill Fraser's great in them as well. But yeah, so yeah, But I think the fourth one was a bit like over at Hammer Studios. They were talking about doing a fourth on the buses film, and that didn't happen. But I think the bottom fell out of the British film industry, like it always seems to be happening. So around the mid '70s, the time, like the carry-ons were going down as well. The time for those sort of TV spin-off films had passed, really.
Okay. So, your sister Fiona asks...
I know, I know. It's like,
I always say that.
I've only got one sister.
Do you think that Frankie knew how much he was loved by the general public?
I hope so. I certainly told him. I hope so. Yeah, I think so. But it's you know, when insecurity is completely ingrained in your head, and isolation and the sort of loneliness about your life, I think, you know, you can be in a crowded room and feel alone. But I think, yeah, I mean, well, it's the applause, isn't it? I mean, my God, he played to packed houses and standing ovations and laughter that ringing around the cathedrals of entertainment that I love theatre so much. But yes, I think you can't deny the fact that, luckily, unlike Benny Hill, Frank, his last few years was very busy, very popular, and the sound of laughter was ringing in his ear holes.
I'm glad somebody's asked this question, actually, because I was going to ask you this question if no one else did.
Go on.
What were your thoughts of Frankie's appearance in the 1969 Carry On Christmas special? For me, he steals the show.
Yeah, he's brilliant. Yeah, it's the best Christmas special that Carry On's ever did. I think Frankie's great. We mentioned the bit he does as Robert Brown in The Poet. He's also the fairy godmother, like a sort of outrageous sort of Mae West, Danny LaRue sort of thing, which is very funny. Yeah, I agree. I think he does steal it, and I think he knows he steals it. And unlike the other guys, they'd all done obviously a lot of telly, people like Sid and Charles Hawtrey, but they were more at home in a film studio, I think. And Frankie Howerd, because it had a live audience, really plays to the live audience, and you know, he's at his best in a live situation, Frank. So yeah, I think he's superb in it. And usually every Christmas, Channel 5 tend to drag that out and stick it on. So yeah, if you haven't seen it, watch it. It's really good.
Okay, so was Frankie his real name?
It was Francis Alec Howard with an A. Howard, Howard, and the E was a misprint on a poster, and he liked it, so it stuck.
Okay, so Lane says, hang on a second, I've just lost it. He said, I would have loved to have seen him and Bob Monkhouse together in something in later days too. Geniuses at their prime.
Absolutely. Not Bob's favourite person, I would say that.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to say. But yes, both geniuses, absolutely. Yes.
Okay. In the late 80s, Frankie wasn't on TV much, but he was seen in a children's series called All Change for Yorkshire TV.
All Change, that's right.
With the brilliant Maggie Steed. Have you seen it, and has it been repeated after the second series in '91?
That was the one where he's dead, isn't he? He does like a film. He does like a film, like a filmed will or something. It's a kids show. Yeah, I did see it when it went out. I'm sure I've got the episode somewhere. I think they're in the vault somewhere. Yeah, it was good. I don't think it's been repeated ever since. No. But one of his last things, I think we're talking sort of 1990, 91 maybe. But yeah, I have seen it. It's fun. It's fun. 15-minute little bite-size, sort of like an inheritance comedy. Yeah.
Have you ever seen the Bohemian Rhapsody film? In one of the opening scenes at Freddie Mercury's house, Freddie and his family
Absolutely.
are watching
Up Pompeii. They are indeed. Yes, I mentioned this. I did a thing with Robin Ince at the Bristol Slapstick just in January, a few months ago now, and I did a thing about classics in comedy, which was an excuse to watch lots of clips of Up Pompeii and Monty Python's Life of Brian, basically. But yeah, I mentioned that, and I'm hoping, I don't know for a fact, I must talk to Dexter Fletcher, who directed it, but whether they put that clip in intentionally, because Frank was playing a very heterosexual character as a gay man, and Freddie Mercury was a gay man trying to be seen as heterosexual, certainly bisexual, married to a woman. So I hope it was intentionally put in there as a sort of...
Do you know, that's how I read it when I watched it.
Yeah, exactly. It's only throwaway, isn't it? It's right at the start. And I'm thinking they're using some iconography from 1970 to hopefully make a filmic and intelligent point. That's how I read it, anyway.
Good question.
Good question.
Okay, so was Frankie's appearance in the Farms music video his final screen appearance? Testing your
No,
knowledge.
the last thing he did a load of commercials. Were they shown? He did a commercial for Schweppes. I think it was Schweppes. You know, the secret lemonade drinker. He did a gag of those. I think the last thing he did that was shown was a brilliant advert for, not Panama. What was it? One of the cigarellas. Mel Smith. I'll tell you what. It's brilliant. If it's not, I've got it on in my collection. It's not on YouTube, I don't think. Mel Smith directed it. Griff Rhys-Jones narrates it, and it's basically, it'll come to me, the brand. Ronnie Corbett's in it, Peter Cook's in it, and it's basically this off-camera hand offering these comedians cigarettes or panatellas or something. And Frankie, oh no, Mrs. No, and Frank Carson said, oh no, 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 and Peter Cook says, no, 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 go away. And then right at the end, the payoff is Bruce Forsyth takes one and says, oh, thank you very much, and lights it. And the narration is proof positive that these cigarettes are not for comedians. And of course, Bruce, well, steady on, I'm an entertainer. And I'm an entertainer became quite a catchphrase for about half a year off the back of that commercial. I think that was Frankie's last on-screen appearance, I think. But it was certainly a commercial anyway.
Fiona said Hamlet.
Hamlet, that's it, Hamlet. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Fiona. The Hamlet, yes. The mild cigar. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so another thing that's come in is about literally just before Frankie was hang on. Literally hours before Frankie died.
Gosh.
Frankie was in discussions with a TV producer about a possible project. What was this?
Yeah, very good. Who's asking this? How do you know hours before he was in the hospital? But
John
Hufferman. Okay, John. Hello, John. Yes, it was. Frankie was a massive fan of crime fiction. He loved reading crime novels, and he was a massive fan of Inspector Morse. One of the writers, Jeremy Burham, I think, who wrote an episode called Sins of the Father. God, where's this coming from? He wrote an episode, the one with Lionel Jeffries in, basically. There's an Inspector Morse with Lionel Jeffries in. I think it's called Sins of the Father. And Frankie really loved it, and he got in touch with him, and he wanted him to write a 2-hour self-contained film series for ITV, which was provisionally going to be called Holy Joe, because he was playing a character called Jocelyn Otis Spotterswood or something. He was like a reverend. He was like a clergyman who solved crimes in his spare time, and that was the thing. He was. And there was a script, I think, or a first treatment written for it, and then he died. But that would have been great. Imagine that, like oh man, Frankie is a sort of like eccentric clergyman solving crimes on Sunday nights. I'd be up for that.
Well, it's time to say whoa, whoa, and thrice whoa.
No.
The end is nigh.
Is it? Gosh, it goes so quickly. Thank you. Whoa.
And thank you, Barnaby. He's just put his YouTube link
Oh,
in.
lovely. Okay, grand.
And maybe we can include that in one of our films.
Absolutely, I'll mention it in one of the films. I'm sure I'll mention Frankie at some point again. So yes, please, if you haven't subscribed already, if you search Robert Ross, comedy historian, YouTube, you'll find this thing. Film 41 today. We're doing it from every day, and we had a guest appearance from my lovely pal George Layton today, who did a little message down the line. So yes, please subscribe to that and tell your friends. And as Frankie Howerd would say, if you don't like it, keep quiet about it. But anyway, yes, thank you, that was lovely. I enjoyed that.
Enjoyed
Can
that
you do
one.
it again
And we
now?
didn't crash.
And we didn't crash, you see, the system works. we may be on our side, but the system works.
We'll sort it out for next week.
So yes, thanks Teddy Taggart, a great show. Thanks, buddy.
You're welcome.
So who are we doing next week? Do we know who we're doing next week?
What is everybody's thoughts of Sid James?
I love Sid James. Getting hearts here.
Oh.
Oh, Susie, thank you both so much. Really enjoying these book clubs. Bless your heart, darling. Thank you so much. We must talk soon in person rather than over. Be looking like Sid James and you looking Sabrina. It's like 1952 again. Yeah, should we do Sid?
I think so. I think there's a delay on this, you know.
Oh,
You get
okay.
the
Well done, you
messages.
two. I've done 2 books on Sid James, so we can take the pick, can't we, and do one of those. Oh, we could change our mind, but basically we'll be here definitely next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Same back channel, same back time. So we'll do something funny, hopefully, and see you then.
Yes. All right. So it's good night from him.
And it's good night from me. Bye bye. Take care. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Oh,
Clear off. Hurrah for Sir James. Oh, Barnaby and Jones.
Yes.
Barnaby gets casting vote because he's basically a comic genius. So,
love
yeah,
some more
okay.
Sid.
Done.
Okay, Sid James.
Sid James.
Good
Thanks.
night, everybody.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Stay safe.
Bye.